This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. Welcome into Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the CEO and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California. And I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We have a very fun and informative show for you this weekend. We've called it 2024 Financial Resolutions. And Tom, I think it's a really fitting thing to be talking about at the beginning of this month because a lot of folks come up with resolutions for the beginning of the year. And studies show that often by the end of January, those resolutions have already come to a halt. What kind of financial resolutions are you finding that most people are making? I know you meet with folks all the time, you and your team, all across Southern California. What are some of the common themes that you're hearing that folks have as it relates to their finances?
Well, the key thing, the nice thing about a New Year's resolution, Kristen, is that you know it's going to start at New Year's, okay?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why so many people make those resolutions.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to the financial side, just like we don't have necessarily a need for a January 1st to roll around, but the key thing is get started, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever resolution you're going to make, get started. Now, let's talk about some of the things you can get started doing, all right?
Great.
Number one, you can get started saying, I'm going to save more this year. You say, oh boy, here we go. But think about it. If you're serious, if you're not serious about this, then you're not gonna help yourself, all right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're serious about saving for retirement, I said on a previous show that nobody's ever come to me and said, I've got too much money saved for retirement. I don't know what I'm going to do with it all.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
I would be glad to help anybody like that and alleviate some of their problems. But inside your 401k, you may have already gone a whole month and not taken advantage of the fact that you can put more money into your 401k this year. The government will allow you to put more money, whether you're under 50 or over 50. And if you're over 50, you have that really big $7,500 extra catch-up provision in your 401k. Start using it. Some of you got you've got a match in your 401k and you're not taking advantage of it. Well, my goodness, that's like putting in $1 and getting $2 credited to your account.
Mm-hmm.
So for goodness sakes, if your company added a match or they've done a match and you're not taking advantage of it, call your HR department or your HR person and up what you're giving to your 401k. And what we caution a lot of people or encourage a lot of people or coach a lot of people, we do a 401k coaching program, Kristen, where even though you might be in your 30s and your 40s or even in your 20s and you just, the 401k is like a financial jungle, a zoo to look at.
Yeah.
What we do is we coach you as to who you are, as to what's the best place to put your money within the 401k to accomplish what you want it to accomplish. And with all those people, we encourage you at the beginning of every year, up what you're contributing 1%, right? And that way it doesn't really hurt you.
Right.
It doesn't really kill you, but over a period of time, it helps you so much. And then obviously, if your company's like a lot of companies tapping in and they're offering a Roth option where you go ahead and pay the tax now, but you don't pay any tax ever as it grows or when you take it out,
That's a beautiful option, especially for younger people for long-term investments. Go ahead and swallow the tax bucket right now and stomach that right now. So start saving more. That's one of the resolutions that you need to make. And again, nobody's ever come to me and said that they're saving too much.
Well, and it's interesting. One of my mentors, when I first got into this industry, used to always say, save until it hurts, which isn't necessarily a fun way to think about it. But to your point, once you get started, it can kind of, I always find it shifts to becoming a game, if you will, of, oh, wow, how much can I save now? And just by increasing it, that 1% every year can make a huge difference.
For your own no-cost retirement blueprint, call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Exactly. And I think that is a great thing, a great encouragement that you got from one of your mentors. And I immediately, when you said that, my thought was, when do you want to hurt? Do you want to be a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit of commitment, a little bit of priority now, so that when you're 65, 70, 75, and 80, and you can't work, and you don't have a 401k, and saving is not an option anymore because you've got expenses, that's when you're going to hurt if you don't hurt a little bit now.
Right. It's a momentary sacrifice now for a long-term gain, for sure.
Right.
Well, what else is on the top of people's minds when they're meeting with you and talking about their financial resolutions?
Well, one of the things that people think hurts, but really is a blessing, is a budget, knowing where your money's going.
Yes.
Because I see so many people spending, even my own kids, spending so much money on things that, do they really need to spend that much money on that? Do they really need to get a package at the door for all these supplements that are here? Do they really need to go out to eat every single night and meal of the week?
All those subscriptions.
Right. All of those things. That may be what you want in your budget, but unless you have a budget telling you where you want to spend what you've got, you're just spending by feel and rather than by knowledge. So I would say number 2, develop a budget. Number 3, I see so many people when they're young, they get behind the debt eight ball and they're behind the 8 ball and it just keeps getting worse the rest of their life.
Right.
I mean, if you want to give yourself a little analysis, go look at all your credit cards, all of your car loans, all of your home loans, and look at what you're paying in interest every single month. You're paying that to a lender. So you need to strategize. I feel like a Dave Ramsey here on the radio, but you need to strategize to get out of debt and to put enough money away that when you need something, you borrow from yourself. Okay. And then you build it back. So save more money, budget, pay off debt. And here's a number 4. A lot of people this year, because we've had in the last 3 years a run up of 17% on inflation. And a lot of people are looking at that. And I have people come in for the complimentary evaluation that we do called a retirement blueprint. And you can claim yours by calling the number that Kristen will give you at the end of this segment. But they come in and they say, well, inflation really hasn't hit me. And I'll ask a question in the evaluation part of it where we're really trying to get just a vision of where they are. What were your savings 3 years ago? What did you owe on credit card debt 3 years ago? And they, oh, wow, we owe a lot more on credit cards now. And our savings was a lot more 3 years ago. Because see what happens, you do take from the savings to maintain a style of living, a standard of living when there is a big recession run up and you don't even realize you're spending down your savings or you're driving up your credit card. So it'd be a good time this year to say, what do we want our emergency bucket, and our savings bucket, and let's replenish those this year. Let's get them back up to the mark where they need to be. Because, hey, folks, if you're out there and you don't realize yet that life happens, hopefully you're not driving a car because you're under 16 years of age, all right? Or mentally you're under 16 years of age. Life happens. You need those savings.
For sure.
Another thing is, let me just run through some more here, Kristen.
Yeah, go for it.
You need to consider your taxes.
Yeah.
Some of you get paid on a 1099 and then every year you get walloped by taxes, and you're realizing that now, and you're going to begin to realize that in the next couple of months when taxes are due. You're going to realize that for next year. Well, don't get behind the 8 ball for next year. Provide for your taxes and reevaluate your taxes. You know, do you think they're going to be higher in the future or lower in the future? Well, what could I do for saving for retirement now that would eliminate the tax issue? That's called a Roth 401k, or a Roth IRA. You know, I could go on for probably 20 more minutes on different things people could do. And that is exactly, Kristen, what we do to people who respond to this radio program. They call in, they get on our calendar, and wherever you are in Southern California, if you're in San Diego, our office is right in Scripps Ranch off the 15 freeway. If you're in Ontario, we're right off the 10 freeway, close to the Ontario airport. If you're in Arcadia, we're very close to the Santa Anita racetrack, right off the 210 in Arcadia. If you're in Glendale, we're right in downtown Glendale. And if you're in Anaheim, we're right off the 57 freeway, right here by Anaheim Stadium. You call in, you get an appointment with one of our 6 all-star advisors, and we'll come in and we'll help you build a plan to help you make the right kind of resolutions so that you can begin to save enough for retirement. Have that budget so you know where your money's going. Pay off your debt, replenish your savings, and all of the other things that are on the list we talked about and things we didn't talk about. But to get this retirement blueprint, you've got to claim it by calling in to the number Kristen's going to give you.
And I can't think of a better way to help you get your financial resolutions on track for 2024 than by picking up the phone and calling 888-930-5609 so that you can get your very own customized, complimentary retirement blueprint from the team of Mosley Wealth Management. When we come back, we're going to be discussing some of the economic headwinds that could potentially blow you and your finances off course. Are you prepared for those? Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
When it comes to taxes and retirement planning, it can feel like you're playing a game without knowing the rules. Tax laws are complex and they're constantly changing. So how can you be sure you're making the right decisions to minimize your tax burden and maximize your retirement savings? At Mosley Wealth Management, we can help you understand the tax implications of your retirement plan and work towards developing a strategy that works for you. Our experienced advisors stay up to date on the latest tax laws and can help you navigate the complexities of the tax code. Don't let taxes catch you off guard in retirement. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management to see how we can help you develop a tax-efficient retirement plan that is tailored to your unique situation. Work with a team of experts who know the rules of the game and can help you work towards playing to win. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement blueprint and tax efficiency analysis. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. And Tom, it's always a joy to be with you. I feel like our listeners have the opportunity to learn so much each and every week through the radio show and the television show. And one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is that you stay up to date with what's happening out there, and you read constantly, and you are very in the know with what folks are saying within the financial industry. And that brings us to the next subject that we're going to dive into on today's show. I know that there are some economic headwinds, if you will, some things that can potentially blow folks off course that they need to be aware of, specifically in 2024. So can you share a little bit about what you've been learning and focusing on as it relates to these economic headwinds?
Yeah, nobody, if you're flying, likes a headwind, because if you're flying and you're going into a headwind, and particularly the way the wind blows, when I fly from California, say to Atlanta, I'm going with a big tailwind of sometimes 110 miles an hour at the upper elevation. And I get to Atlanta about an hour sooner than when I leave Atlanta and I come back to LA.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm going with the tailwind is pushing me there.
Right.
And when I'm coming back, I'm going into the headwind. And a headwind is not something that's going to stop you, but think about it. It takes more time. It takes more fuel. It
you're going into the headwind, so the flights generally are a little more turbulent on the way. Hopefully you won't lose a window like some of the planes have been doing. But, there are all kinds of things that you're going into that's not going to stop you from getting there, but it's going to cost you more in the way of fuel, in the way of time.
Well, and I would add, as someone who flies a lot, not only that, because it takes longer, you might miss your connecting flight, and that's never fun either.
That's exactly right. If there's a big, strong headwind and it really slows you down and you've got 46 minutes to go from Terminal E to Terminal A in Atlanta, you are in a mess, okay?
Yeah.
You're in trouble. So let's talk about some of the headwinds, all right? When you go into a headwind, and this is a long-term headwind, and it takes a long time for you to see this one, and this one takes care of over decades. And what am I talking about? All three of the things I just said have to do with longevity, living a long time. Do you realize that in retirement, when you're financial planning, longevity and living a long time is more, from a financial standpoint, is more of a cursing rather than a blessing?
Yeah.
Because whatever you've put away or whatever's coming in on a regular basis, I mean, it just takes it longer to last. It's got to last longer. For instance, like if you're on Social Security, and this year we're back to the standard of getting maybe 15, 20, 25% less of a raise in Social Security than real inflation. So if every year, if inflation is really 4 and you get 3, and next year it's really 4 and you get 3, your spending power over a period of time, you're running into a headwind, and all the longevity of that headwind just drives it down and down and down and down as far as your spending power. If you've got a pension, most pensions, if you're blessed with a pension, because pensions are good, they're basically an annuity that your company invested in for you that's going to do what all good annuities do, is going to give you income guaranteed for the rest of your life, and if you're married, for the rest of your spouse's life. That's the good news.
Right.
The bad news is the longevity of living 20 or 30 or 35 years in retirement is if you get $4,000 the first year of retirement, say at 62, at 72, if you don't have a cost of living raise on that longevity, that 10 years costs you a lot of money because you're still getting $4,000 a month. And that won't go nearly as far as it did 10 years ago.
Right.
You put yourself at 82, then it won't go nearly as far as it will go 20 years earlier. So the longevity can hurt you as far as your spending power over a long period of time, because you're going to need more and more.
Right. Because I was going to say, just to put that into perspective, when inflation was averaging the long-term historical rate of 3% per year, what that means is your cost of living doubles every 24 years. So 24 years from now, you would need twice the amount of money to buy the same amount of goods and services you're buying today. Well, we think about where inflation has been, that window of time of the cost of living doubling significantly shortens.
Get your retirement right on the money with Tom Mosley. Call 888-930-5609 for your no-cost appointment. 888-930-5609.
And you know what? I hear people out there in your car and you're saying, well, I'm not going to be spending as much when I'm 85 as when I'm 65. You know what? What I find from doing this for only 29 years now and helping over thousands of people retire, what I find is you spend just as much, you just spend them in different places.
Exactly, different ways.
Tell your doctor and your pharmacy and your medical bills, tell them that you're not spending as much at 65 as you at 85 as you did at 65. You just spend it in different ways. So to your point, you're absolutely right. You're still going to need that money, and that longevity is a headwind. Now, we've already jumped into the second one. The second one is what inflation does, because, we've had 17% inflation over the past 3 years, but that's a real headwind when we have a little inflation bubble, because it stays, the price of everything stays 17% up, and then it goes 3%, 4%, 5% the next year. Then it's at 19, 20, or 21% higher. So inflation is always something that's going to be a headwind. You're going to need, to your point, Kristen, that was so appropriate, we're going to need more and more and more money in retirement. Now, let me tell you one way that we help people deal with this. And a lot of people have looked at these and maybe they put in the wrong ones. And a lot of people have looked at these and they've been put in them when they're 30 years old. And I'm talking about an annuity, and I'm talking about particularly a fixed income annuity. Now, the fixed income annuities, some of the ones that we use, they don't have the 4 and the 5% fees that the variable annuities have, that a lot of people get sold when they're 30 years of age, and they get into them and they realize that it's costing them 4 or 5% a year and they don't make any money in them. So they get out of them and they come and they say, I hate annuities.
Right.
When you're 35 years old, for income, you don't need an annuity. You need a job. All right. Let's establish that. But when you walk out of your job and you're facing this headwind of living a long time and you're facing inflation over a period of your retirement, you need some stream of income that's going to give you guaranteed increasing income, and it's going to last as long as you do. And hey, if you're married out there, you can be built to where it lasts as long as your spouse survives you. There is no vehicle alive that will do that other than an annuity, because an annuity, like your Social Security, an annuity like your pension, is going to pay you for the rest of your life. And you can get the ones like we use with our people when they see the value of them and they need income in retirement. It will pay them a guaranteed increasing income for the rest of their life.
And
that's what you need to look at.
For sure. And you and I have done a whole TV show where we've talked about answering this question, is an annuity right for you? Because it's so important to be educated. There's different kinds. Not all kinds are equal. To your point, there's certain kinds you don't even sell or touch or talk to folks about. And then furthermore, for the kinds that can be a good fit, you have to find out if it's suitable for that person in that individual situation, because it's not a one size fits all.
You're exactly right. Again, we say on this program, week after week after week, if you're listening to us, your situation is different than anybody else's, and an annuity may never be good for you. I've got one guy who's got a government pension, and it's in the, let me figure here. It's in the 5 figures. Okay. And it's around $12,000, and he's got rental houses, and he makes about $5,000 a month off of those rental houses, and his budget is $3,000. Does he need income? No, he's got more income than he can ever spend.
Right.
Okay. But not everybody's in that position. And if you need income over a period of your lifetime that's guaranteed increasing, you may need to look at an annuity. Now, Kristen, there's another provision of these annuities we're talking about. The principal is guaranteed. It'll never go down. It'll go up with the market, not all of it, but with the market when the market goes up. So you avoid the third headwind that you could run into, and that's market volatility. Not with all of your portfolio, but with maybe 20, 25, or 30% of your portfolio. You pull that over to the side and you say, this doesn't go down.
Right.
It goes up some when the market goes up, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe even more some years, but it doesn't go down when the market falls off the table. And if you're on the other side of the spectrum and you say, well, I want to leave all my money in the market, I don't want to tie any of it up in anything guaranteed that's principal protected. Well, everything you've got goes up and down, and you're facing a headwind for 25 or 30 years of market volatility that may go through one downturn every 4 years, 5 years on the average. We went about 13 years without a big one, so people got, they got immune to it.
Right.
But every 4 or 5 years, normally you go through market volatility. And then the other thing is taxes.
Yes.
How are you going to deal with taxes? Do you think taxes are going to be higher in the future or lower? I've never met the person yet who says, oh, I think taxes are going to go down to almost nothing.
Me either.
Right. It's a headwind. So when you build a retirement plan, are you looking at longevity? Are you looking at inflation?
Are you looking at guaranteed income? Are you looking at market volatility? Are you looking at taxes? Those are the things that we address when we build you your individual retirement blueprint. And it's all based on what you need and what you have and what you need to make sure and what your plans are and how you're going to live your retirement years. To claim yours, you've got to call in to the number that Kristen's going to give you.
And it's very simple. All you need to do is call 888-930-5609, and you'll be able to schedule a time to come in and meet with one of the incredible advisors of Moseley Wealth Management at one of their 5 office locations throughout Southern California. Well, we're just getting started. We have a lot more to cover on today's show. Stay with us, and we will be back right after this.
At Moseley Wealth Management, we believe that financial planning should be different by design. That's why we don't use a one-size-fits-all approach to retirement planning. Your life and your career has been completely different from that of your neighbors, family, or friends because there is only one you. We'll help you identify areas where you can potentially reduce risk and maximize returns while also addressing potential tax implications that could impact your retirement savings. We believe that financial planning should be transparent, accessible, and easy to understand. That's why we take the time to explain complex financial concepts in simple, straightforward terms. Our goal is to help you make informed decisions and implement strategies that are aimed to help you achieve your financial objectives. With our comprehensive approach to retirement planning, we'll work with you every step of the way to help you work towards achieving your unique retirement goals. At Right on the Money and Moseley Wealth Management, we make retirement planning different by design. Call Tom Moseley and the team at Moseley Wealth Management today for your complimentary retirement blueprint. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Do you know how you'll generate income from your investments along with your Social Security in retirement? In our opinion, it's never too early to start the income planning process for your future. An income plan can help you work towards creating a steady stream of income to support you throughout your retirement years. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today and start income planning for your retirement. Call the team at Moseley Wealth Management so we can help you design a complimentary written income plan to help you live the retirement you've always wanted. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Moseley. He is the CEO and president of Moseley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. One of the neat things about getting to do the radio show, Tom, and I know you love, is you connect with people through the airwaves, but then you're also able to often meet our listeners at upcoming events that you and your team are holding. So talk about some of the events that are coming up.
You can go to our website, Moseley, that's Mosley, wealthmanagement.com, and you can look at pretty much everything we're going to do over the next 2 months all over Southern California. We want to meet you. We want to greet you. And we want you to tell us, hey, we watched you on TV on Channel 9 and on the ABC station down in San Diego. And we listened to you on KNX. We listened to you on Kogo Radio in San Diego. And come meet us. We'd be glad to see you and glad to have you in our events.
Well, I know you love doing those events. And we should also just let people know that this is completely complimentary. Am I right?
Well, they can pay us if they want, but we don't charge anything, okay?
Right. This is just an opportunity to get some solid financial education and put a name with the face and a name with the voice and get to meet the team of Moseley Wealth Management. So we encourage you to check out those upcoming events and hope to see you there. Well, Tom, we are continuing our conversation today of resolutions for 2024, and you talked about some of the headwinds in the last segment that folks need to be prepared for. I know one of the things I think that can often shock people when it comes to retirement planning is that once you hit retirement, life continues to change. Change doesn't stop just because you've retired. It actually can often bring some new challenges or new things to navigate people's way. So let's talk about some of those life changes and how you help your clients navigate those.
Kristen, I can pretty much bet every single person that's listening to this show right now, wherever you are, if you calculated where you are right now and you went out 12 months in the future, there's going to be some pretty big changes because life changes. It never, ever stays the same.
Life happens, right? That's what my mom used to always say. Yep.
Exactly. I mean, life happens and and you might find yourself sooner than you ever expect in a whole new world from what you're living in right now. And I just thought, in 29 years of doing this, I've run into so many people, and one of the reasons we like to have the kind of firm that when you become our client, you become part of our family, and you come in and we want to walk with you through retirement. I started this June the 8th of 1995. And one of my dear friends is a person that within just a month or two after that, he became a client in 1995. And his life has changed. The particular client I'm thinking about, friend I'm thinking about, he used to be an auto mechanic, working in a really nice auto mechanic place. But now he, for the last 20 years, has been an attorney.
Wow.
So you're talking about a change. And he used to live in Newport Beach, and now he lives in the Inland Empire. So, life changes. Yeah. Life changes over a long period of time, but in the next 12 months, you're going to have changes. So I thought we would take a segment and we would talk about some of the changes that are taking place and might take place in your life. Okay?
Let's do it. Yep.
So here we go. Number one, you could have a change in your job situation. It seems like that generations ago, I remember my grandfather, when he turned 65, they gave him a pension, a party, and a gold watch.
Yep. That was pretty standard back then.
Pretty standard. And he retired. He went off into the sunset and lived for 3 or 4 more years, and then he went to heaven. Okay. Now it seems like when you turn 50, oh, by the way, no pension, no party, and no gold watch at 65. But when you turn 50, they give you an invisible T-shirt with a bullseye on the back.
Yeah.
And every time they go through a layoff or a downsize or a right size or a restructuring or whatever they want to call it, they lay off people.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's the older people who get laid off. So you could face that this year. Just so you know, in preparation for this show, if you'll just get a paper like the Wall Street Journal, there was one day this week, on Tuesday, I read through the Wall Street Journal, and there were 4 articles about companies that were merging and laying people off, had taken a division and had laid off 7,000 people, had moved from one area of the country to the other and laid off people. So
the good old corporate restructuring, which is a nice way of saying all the above, right?
You know what? Have you ever had to say a bad word and you had to try to find a nice word to say to really say what you're saying? It hurts, okay?
Yeah.
And it normally comes to people in their 55, 60, 65. Well, if that happens to you, you don't need to push the panic button is the only button you can push. You need to have been working with a retirement specialist so that you've got a retirement plan that if that does happen to you.
Yes. Yeah.
There's another thing that happens that people don't think of at this age, and that is divorce. And subsequently, a remarriage even might happen.
Right.
Because a lot of times people, sadly to say, it's one thing to live with somebody and to see them a couple of hours at night and then on the weekend for most of 2 days on the weekend and then to go back to work. But a lot of people are facing retirement in their upper years, and they're thinking, I've endured this for 35 or 40 years, and I'm not advocating this, but they're facing it and they're saying, I don't want to live the rest of my 15 or 20 years or however how long I have and live with you. And so divorces are on the rise of people who are in their upper 50s and 60s, and therefore a subsequent second marriage that so many, many times just compounds their financial situation.
Yeah.
That may be something you're facing this year. So I'm not here to be Debbie Downer because we really do try to pick you up, but I'm just saying, don't be unaware if some of these things hit you this year and you say, I never expected it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that we've talked about this before. You have to be prepared for the unexpected. And there's so much peace of mind that can come with having a plan in place so that when the unexpected does happen, then you just make adjustments as needed to that plan.
Another thing, Kristen, people, if you still have your parents, boy, I wish I could hug mine. Last month, I passed the 10th anniversary of my dad who passed away last. My mom passed away in 2008.
My dad passed away in January of 2014. And man, I wish I could just call 918-234-7056. I still remember my dad's phone number. Okay. And because I called it every day, and I haven't called it for 10 years. Okay. And you may still have your parents, but your parents may be needing care.
Yes.
And I have had people have to retire so that they could take care of their parents.
Yep.
And that may be something you're facing. And they may have to move in with you. And oh boy, what are we going to use that third and fourth bedroom for? Because the kids are gone. Well, it may be your first and second parent that you had. They may be moving back in with you.
Right.
Or you may be having to go through and help them. And one thing I would say to you on that is, if you still have your parents, and this is a very touchy subject, but this will help you as much as anything we've said on this radio show today. If your parents don't have their financial exit plans in order, with a trust, with a will, with things laid out, you need to encourage them. And it's touchy because sometimes, man, they're like a porcupine when you try to work with them to try to get their financial aspects in order, okay? And their assets where they should be. When you're working with them, you got to be very careful, but because sometimes they think, well, you're just trying to get my money. No, you're trying to make sure that they make the decisions they need to make before they are not any longer here to make those decisions. And the easiest people, we don't do trust and wills because we're not attorneys, but we've got people we refer our clients to. But the easiest people to persuade that they need a trust or a will are people whose parents have recently passed away and their parents didn't have their affairs in order.
Yes, because after you go through that, you want to do everything possible to not be in that same situation. I've seen that firsthand.
No, it's unbelievable. I'll tell you another thing that we see a lot. I have a lot of grandparents who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s who have taken in grandchildren because for whatever reason, their parents, the grandchildren's parents, maybe your kids, didn't become the adults they needed to be. And so you're having, in your retirement age and your retirement years, you're having to raise your grandchildren. So just think about these things. Every one of these things that we think about could make a financial impact on you. And if your financial life and your plan and your assets and your financial direction and your plan is not what it should be, and then you add the added burden of some of these other things we've talked about, you are not just in one mess, you're in a heap of mess, as my dad used to say.
That number to call is 888-930-5609. This is simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how the team of 𝗏𝗟ley Wealth Management can help you be prepared for all the changes life could bring your way. We appreciate you being with us. We have one more segment. Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to be diving into your listener questions, and who knows, we might even answer yours. More after this. How do you know if you're retirement ready? That's a question many people ask themselves as they approach their golden years. We believe the answer can be complex and depends on many factors, such as your savings, monthly expenses, and lifestyle goals. At 𝗏𝗟ley Wealth Management, we can help you determine if you're retirement ready. Call Tom Mosley and the team at 𝗏𝗟ley Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement blueprint. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and it's that time of the week where we get to answer your listener questions. As a reminder, if you have a question that you would like for Tom to answer during the radio show, you can email your question to info@mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's info@mosleywealthmanagement.com. We've got some great questions this week. We always appreciate you that write in and want to have your questions answered. And first up, we have Lori in Irvine. She says, I'm in my middle 60s and will retire within the next year. I have about $275,000 in my Roth IRA and $450,000 in my 401k. Does it matter where I start taking money from first? Should I just take some from each?
Good question. Common question. Thanks for sending it in, Lori. Okay. Here's my answer. Where do you want money to end up? In the 401k, you've got a bucket or an investment or an account that forever, as it grows and as money comes out of there, every time a dollar comes out, it has to go through the U.S. tax system to get taxed as regular income. Keep that in mind. Now, if I flip over to the Roth IRA that you have $275,000. And by the way, the amount of money that you have saved, Lori, is very nice. It's very good, very workable. You should be able to have, in most cases, most people with those amounts of money can have a very good retirement. You just need to make sure that you're making right decisions like this. Now, the 401k, always taxable, forever. The Roth IRA, never taxed. You take the money out of that, you are never taxed. So the reason we work with people in an ongoing basis year after year after year is your income situation changes, your tax situation changes. So in a year, let's say your income was up, Lori, you might want to take the money out of your Roth IRA because there's no taxable event there. In an income year where your taxable situation is down and there's some extra space in your tax bracket to take more money out without pushing you into a higher tax bracket, you might want to take money out of the 401k. You also might want to consider over a period of time using that same practice to maybe gradually pay the tax on the money coming out of that 401k and get it converted over to that Roth IRA. Because remember, the word is on the 401k from a tax perspective, forever taxed. The Roth IRA, never taxed. I know where I would choose to have my money and to leave my money. So the real answer might be better if you can take it out of the 401k now while we know taxes are lower than they will be in 2026 when they go back up to the previous rates and marginal rates that we've had before the 2017 tax cuts. Go ahead and take the money out of the taxable now and allow that Roth to continue to grow without growing your tax obligation in the future.
Such great advice. And it just speaks to the fact that so much goes into this. You need to have a solid withdrawal strategy because it matters how much you withdraw from which account when. So great question, Lori. And I know, Tom, you would love to continue helping folks in that area who needs help deciding when to take what from where, right?
Exactly. I mean, and you know, Kristen, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Don't ever take, if you're listening out there, any kind of advice we give you. I say on my YouTube channel, Ease into Retirement, you can go look at it through our website. I always say on those that this is not tax, legal, investment, or gardening advice, okay? It's just a general statement about things. Your advice for you has to consider you. Yeah. And that's why when people come in for the complimentary evaluation that you can claim by calling in, we start with a blank piece of paper because you have an entirely different situation than anybody else's. So don't take anything that we say and say, well, the guy on the radio told me to go do this. That's a suggestion for maybe somebody like Lori. And even there's variables before I could give Lori solid investment. Lori, don't go run with anything until you get total advice that looks at the entire picture.
Yep. So true. So important. A good reminder for sure. Well, next up, we have Peter in Del Mar. Peter says, I work for a great company and they match my contributions to my 401k. However, they do it by using company stock. I love the matching funds, but I feel there is a higher level of risk with so much of my money tied up in one stock. Should I still try to put in as much as I can, or do I need to look elsewhere?
Great question, Peter. The problem that you're outlining there is diversification. And you are not very well diversified. I saw a 401k yesterday in our Ontario airport office, right by Ontario Airport.
Yes, we should clarify. It's not in the airport, right?
I always confuse that, right? It's in our office in Ontario that's right off of Haven on Inland Empire Boulevard, right close to the 10 freeway. This guy came in. He's got a great 401k. It's been performing well. The problem is 83% of his 401k is in his one company stock. Peter, it's almost just exactly like you. The problem is diversification. Now, here's the problem. They match. So that's free money, what they're putting in there. So a general rule is do whatever you need to do to get everything you can from the match.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you hit that level and you've still got more room to put on the 401k, you may want to consider pulling some of that money and putting it into a Roth IRA or a regular IRA that can be more diversified. And the Roth IRA can be more diversified and can be a very big tax advantage to you in the long run. So you do have other options. You might be really careful, because here's the problem. If it's diversified and some of the stock goes down, some of the other stock will keep that portfolio supported.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not very well diversified, it's like the old saying, put all your eggs in one basket and guard that basket. And sometimes, you know the company, you work for the company, you love the company, but be very, very careful.
Yes.
There's a very large aircraft carrier builder, starts with a B, and their stock used to be 5 years ago at over $450 a share. It has gone down to as low as $96 a share in the last 4 years. And all of the massive amount of people that work for that company, remember, aircraft builder starts with a B. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But that stock is just now up into the low 200s because everybody thought it was going to bounce right back. But they keep having problems with crashes and problems with windows and things like that. And it just keeps that stock down. A lot of people that I know stayed in that stock to a heavy extent, and their portfolio was worth half now of what it was because they weren't very well diversified. Peter, we got to talk to you. You need to come into our San Diego office close to you there in Del Mar. It's in Scripps Ranch. Come in, get an appointment, tell them you need to see somebody in the San Diego office, and they'll set you up.
Well, our next question is very timely based on what we were talking about in the previous segment about life changes, especially as you're approaching retirement. This question comes from John in Van Nuys. He said, my company just merged with another company and I got laid off at age 55. John, we're sorry to hear that. He said, I have a pension, $325,000 in a 401k and $185,000 in an IRA. I feel like I have to get another job since I can't access Social Security, the 401k, or my IRA. Do you have any suggestions for me?
I would likely, again, I'd need to meet with you, John. It is possible for people to retire at 55 when they get laid off. I've actually had people come in and they've said almost the same story you've got, John. I've gotten laid off. I've got this much money saved. The first thing we would do is find out, what do you need per month? You're going to have to bridge that gap. We talked about this, Kristen, a couple of shows ago, that if you have to retire or want to retire at 55, the gaps that you've got to wait until you can hit that 401k generally, the gaps until you can turn on Social Security. There's also a gap, John, as to how you are going to bridge your health insurance until you're 65 and you get on Medicare. So that portfolio, which is a little north of $500,000 in what you've given us, plus the pension, that portfolio going to be hit early and often for the first 7 to 10 years until you get into some of the programs that might give you some assistance. That my suggestion would be, you need a thorough analysis. And it might come out of that analysis that your needs and your pension are such that you really don't need another job. Or maybe you could do like a lot of people, you could work part-time. There are some ways, listen very closely here, that you can tap into your 401k without paying a penalty before 59 and a half. But that IRA, you cannot tap into that
before 59 and a half without paying a penalty. A lot of rules are behind the scene here for you, John. You need to come in and meet with us. I want to tell you, a lot of these, we don't try at all, Kristen, to be evasive to anybody out there. It's just that there's so many questions behind the questions that we need to answer before, Kristen, we can build them the right kind of plan.
It depends on so many different factors, and there's only so much you can know with the little information you've been given.
And there's somebody out there listening to us right now, and you say, my situation is different. Well, hello, that's what we're telling you. Your situation is different. You need to get on our schedule and come in so we can meet with you and develop your retirement blueprint. Kristen, tell them how to get that.
Absolutely. Well, again, for your own complimentary personalized retirement blueprint, all you need to do is call 888-930-5609. This is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. You'll have the opportunity to come in and meet with one of the all-star advisors from Mosley Wealth Management to get your questions answered and have a blueprint developed for your individual situation. We appreciate you joining us this week, and we look forward to being back with you next time. Until then, be safe, be happy, and be blessed.
Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.